We have a ton of news with the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI, and SSDI. Continue watching this video, we have a ton of news to go over. Typically around warmer weather, gas prices will jump, and according to analysis, as we approach the summer and more people start to travel, prices will rise significantly. Gas prices just rose for the second consecutive week, and now according to Gas Buddy data, compiled from over many gas stations, the average price of gas rose again 10 cents.
Well, everyone here at the Morgan Hill Senior Center welcome the Social Security boost, but also point out they've been around long enough to keep it all in perspective.
How's everybody doing this morning?
The 85 seniors who show up almost daily here inside the city's Centennial Rec Center were dressed in pink today to boost awareness about breast cancer. The Senior Center is a place to connect and socialize, but also a place to cut costs. And for those on a fixed income, that's key, especially with the price of food skyrocketing.
We have a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI and SSDI. There's a ton of information on this video that you have to watch because there's a stimulus payment that you need to know. Exciting news, a few more states have announced brand new plans that will just provide extra stimulus aid to low income and households during this winter time. There are over 9 new batches of stimulus payments that are actually set to go out to everybody to the many Americans in need of stimulus payments. So, as inflation continues to impact the United States, well, many new proposals are finally beginning to be signed into law. Anyone living in these 6 states may be receiving some extra cash sometime next year. Many of these payments are part of programs that start in 2022 but will not fully wrap up until 2023. Certain requirements will have to be met in order to receive these checks, such as filing a tax at a time, and some of these benefits may not be delivered to recipients until 2023. New Jersey homeowners are set to receive some extra cash soon, and the amount that New Jersey homeowners receive just depends on how much money you make. So with those making less than $150,000 a year, you'll receive a $1,500 stimulus check in the mailbox. Renters will also be getting a rebate though they need to be making less than $150,000 annually even to get this check. Roughly 2 million residents will qualify for these rebates, which are scheduled to be paid by recipients on May 2023. The Golden State stimulus payment has already been given to many Californians, though roughly 5% of recipients are still waiting. The final wave of direct deposits and state-issued debit cards are also set to be sent to you by the end of next month. So many residents of Colorado have already received their payments before September, though anybody who has filed an extension will have their payment delivered to them by January 31st in the new year. The payment will be worth either $750 or for about $1,500 for the joint filers. States like Idaho, South Carolina, and even Pennsylvania have also agreed to provide relief checks, payments to help residents that are experiencing financial hardships due to the crisis, as rising prices continue to weigh on households all across the country. Families are feeling stretched too thin, and according to a monthly data report, as of December, 63% of Americans are still living paycheck to paycheck. Means everybody is that although consumer prices again rose, real average hourly earnings are down again 2% from a year earlier. It leaves many Americans in a bind as inflation, higher prices, force more people to dip into their cash reserves or lean on credit cards just when interest rates are at its peak. Already credit card balances are surging, up to 15% in the most recent quarter, the largest annual bump in more than 20 years. At the same time, credit card rates are now more than 20% on average. It's an all-time high. It's still rising, folks. And compared with a year ago, 32% of all consumers are saving less than they were before. Among those who said they were struggling financially, half are unable to save and have no savings at all. A separate survey even found that a third of working adults feel somewhat very uncomfortable about their ability to pay an emergency suffering $400 expense. And the most recent data shows that inflation has been slowing for 5 straight months and is down from this year's peak of 9%. Energy prices in particular are down. It's cheaper to buy gas today than it was a year ago. But the Fed announced it would hike interest rates again, another 0.5 percentage point, folks, and that's something that we don't want to see, because inflation needs to be tamed until it falls under 2%. That means that Fed is still rooting for somewhat higher unemployment rates and slowing the economy. Jerome Powell also made clear that more interest rate hikes are on the way, just as 2023 is beginning to happen. But this only means one thing: stimulus payments are necessary, and stimulus checks should be sent out before the end of the year.
How is it in a functional process to drop a 4,100-page bill this morning. Expect to vote on it tomorrow. Most of Congress hasn't had a chance to review this.
Look, the bill has been carefully worked on by the Appropriations Committee for a very, very long time. Most of the provisions of the bill were well known weeks and weeks and weeks in advance. And getting this bill done for the American people, which really matters, is the most important thing. Yes.
Did Democrats miss an opportunity to deal with the debt ceiling in the lame duck while you still have unified Democratic control and maybe could use reconciliation?
Our view is it should be done in a bipartisan way, and we will be working in the next Congress to get that done.
Leader Schumer.
Given Kevin McCarthy's strong opposition to the bill, do you see this as perhaps the last Congress of President Biden's first term? And how do you expect to deal with government funding and the debt limit?
Look, I think that it's too early to judge what's going to happen in the House. There's so much discombobulation and disunity on different sides of the Republican caucus. We're going to, as I've mentioned before, we're going to work very hard to work with Republicans to get things done. We did, of the big 6 bills this year in a 50-50 Senate, 5 were bipartisan. Last year, one of the biggest bills, the BIF bill, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, which now has some other initials. I think they keep changing these initials. It's not so. IIJA, is that what it's called? I don't know what it's called. But in any case, the BIF bipartisan bill was done that way. And we're going to keep working to get something done in a bipartisan way. Yes.
Can you talk about your relationship, to the degree that one exists, with Kevin McCarthy? You talk about this misconfabulation in the House of Representatives. You're going to be the Senate Majority Leader. He might.
Now, here's some big news in Congress. The Senate just announced and advanced a short-term government funding bill after Manchin considered a defeat on his push to combine the funding with his energy permitting package. This funding bill would also keep the government running through December 16th, easily earning the 60 votes necessary to clear a procedural hurdle during a vote. 72 senators supported moving forward the proposal, and for several weeks, Chuck Schumer has been carefully balancing his promise to Manchin to include Manchin's permitting change proposal on a must-pass bill before the fiscal year ends on September 30th. Despite a growing coalition of members on both aisles vowing to block any short-term funding bill that includes Manchin changes. So Schumer gave assurances to Manchin that in order to secure the West Virginia senators' support, the major political spending and tax bill this summer is the Inflation Reduction Act. In a statement just half an hour before the Senate was set to vote on this bill, Manchin announced that he had requested Schumer to remove language from the bill. Schumer said, Senate Republicans have made clear that they will block legislation to fund the government if it includes bipartisan permitting reform because they've chosen to obstruct instead of work in a bipartisan way to achieve something they've long claimed they wanted to do. Republicans were largely united in their intention to attack and block a funding bill that included Manchin's permitting language. But Republicans were not the only ones working to block the bill when it included Manchin's language. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders had vowed to vote against it too, citing concerns about the adverse environmental impact that speeding up permitting projects for non-renewable energies could have. And also, since the California plans to begin issuing the middle-class tax refund directly to residents and bank accounts, the Franchise Tax Board said that the first batch of payments, also called Inflation Reduction Checks, are set to go out very soon in the month of October. And since the plan to send millions of Californians payments of up to $1,000 was announced months ago, the state agency has been fielding questions from eager residents who could really use the extra money.